attempts to redevelop our school, we should also consider this as an opportunity to restructure our school's philosophy towards teaching and learning practices. The following presentation will discuss how we can implement new and more effective learning spaces into our school with a new school philosophy to help guide our understanding of these learning spaces. When taking the time to consider each of the learning spaces, their interconnected nature becomes evident. My goal today is to propose a new school approach to teaching and learning through the use of both personal and liminal learning spaces to construct a pedagogical shift in our school practice. This new philosophy will assist our decisions surrounding new school development of a modern 21st century learning space. The personal learning space should be understood as a taxonomy of reflective thinking. The usefulness of a reflective taxonomy to act as a pedagogical guide will assist in identifying student sources of motivation, self-direction, and self-efficacy to help teachers expand their students' potential in learning. These practices will also help students identify their own personal learning attributes and allow them to actively engage in a reflective manner to confront their learning needs. It is important for teachers and students to know what each of these personal learning features are and how they influence students' approach to learning. The challenges for teachers in supporting their students' personal learning is that these are not tangible spaces of learning development that can be clearly seen. When these personal learning spaces are made aware in the classroom, both students and teachers have good sense of the personal learning needs and result in students becoming more confident and successful learners. Using the reflective practices of Bloom's taxonomy to assist in achieving more productive, proactive, responsible and flexible learners who are able to construct higher order thinking in their daily activities through steps of remembering, understanding, applying, analysing, evaluating and creating. When students encounter new experiences, they tend to undergo a transformation in their thinking, which can also be explained as a crossing of conceptual boundaries of knowledge. This space between the experience and the new understanding is known as the liminal space. Liminal space can be described as a pocket of time in which students directly or indirectly experience an unknown, which either challenges or adds to their prior knowledge or schema. Liminal learning happens constantly and should be recognised as an active engagement in learning. Recognition of this liminal space in the classroom allows students to enjoy the struggle of discovery and develops more flexible, adaptive thinkers. Understanding the liminal space is similar to the notions behind the constructivist theory of learning, where students' prior knowledge and schemas allow them to make sense of new experiences and information. When students encounter new information that fits with their prior knowledge, this is referred to as assimilation, as they are expanding and adding to what they already know. When students meet troublesome information that does not fit into their schema, disequilibrium occurs within students, which causes them to change and challenge their prior knowledge and leads to accommodation of new information into their schema. The challenge for teachers and students is to ensure that liminal learning is encouraged and that students are supported through the discovery and breakdown of new conceptual boundaries. Teachers should have a good understanding of the constructivist theory, most importantly that the new information is received and interpreted through students' prior knowledge, which is different for every individual student. Promoting this conceptual learning struggle leads to student growth and deeper learning through an acknowledgement and embracement of the liminal learning space. Through these two learning spaces of reflective thought and connecting and adapting existing knowledge with new information, we create a school environment that promotes more flexible, adaptive and responsible students. These pedagogical approaches will also influence the way other learning spaces in the school are created to help students and teachers towards engaged and active learning and teaching practice. Classroom learning spaces are an important means for cultivating a more modern and effective environment for educational instruction. It is within these four walls that students and teachers spend the majority of their learning and teaching time. There are many options to choose when deciding how to redevelop a new learning space. However, after much consideration of my proposed new school philosophy and approach to learning, I've decided that our school should consider an open plan learning space. Open plan learning spaces provide students with an environment to succeed because the space is designed to facilitate student discovery and provide students with a space that promotes the use of various methods to experience breakthrough learning opportunities. When students are participating in open plan learning, they are able to engage in learning that requires them to build their sense of self-motivation, direction and efficacy. Open plan learning spaces are purposely flexible environments that are constructed to reflect the whole school approach to learning, which recognises the need for a range of learning spaces within the classroom, as well as encouraging open interactions with peers. These factors are beneficial in developing students' social and emotional skills as well as their academic success. It is important that teachers recognise that a learning space should include design that is functional and that there should be a clear set of rules and instructions that all students are aware of. This will greatly assist in the management of an open plan learning space. One of the many benefits of open plan learning is a team teaching aspect that encourages teachers to actively work in cooperation and support one another. Spenceley Street Primary School in Clifton Hill uses open plan environments. The design of the school has been done in a way that creates areas rather than traditional classroom spaces, where learning is done in an open space with students from different year levels interacting with each other. This school shows how open learning spaces can be an effective way to create a contemporary learning space that caters to 21st century learners. Having students actively participate in our classrooms should be at the forefront of our teaching practices. Educational environments such as open plan classrooms should require students to help one another in reaching academic achievements and success, and facilitate learning in cooperative and interactive manner. Cooperative learning steps away from the traditional notion of teacher-led instruction in the classroom. Students are handed the responsibility to take control of their own learning and to tackle tasks with both group and individual goals. Developing students' social and emotional education as well as their academic success also occurs when there is cooperative learning. When students are responsible for their own success and the success of their peers, they are active and responsible members of the classroom. Giving students a greater sense of responsibility for their own learning helps to develop students' personal learning needs, highlighting the use of reflective taxonomy of thought used within the classroom. It is vital that teachers and students recognise the difference between structured and informal group learning. Cooperative learning requires a strong sense of structure, where every student is accountable for their own learning within a group-oriented task, and that every student is actively participating and engaged with their work. The idea of group goals and individual accountability means that there is a sense of motivation for students to help each other succeed and also succeed themselves, which promotes personal learning skills and reflective thinking taxonomies. In an open plan learning environment, cooperative learning is a key feature of school teaching and learning practices. The way Spenceley Street Primary School operates as a mixed age learning area is a clear example that when students are asked to work together within a space, there is immediately a greater sense of cooperation and interaction between students. In a classroom full of 21st century learners, it is important that our teaching practices follow suit and that our school environment becomes more proficient in incorporating technology use into our everyday teaching and learning. Technologies used for educational purposes have the ability to go beyond traditional teaching methods, as they have the potential to act as tools, as tutors, as explorers, and as communicators for teaching and learning. It is important that when technology is used in the classroom, teachers are aware of how it is being used and that there is a clear purpose for its use. One of the main challenges that comes with the use of technologies is that it is difficult to determine when it is appropriate to use. Rather than being an effective teaching and learning tool, it becomes more of a distraction than a source of education. Technology should not be used just for the sake of having it, but used as an alternative way for students to develop their conceptual understandings and building on their knowledge. Technology is a powerful way that students can connect and deepen their learning and should be specifically included as a space for learning in our open plan development. St Mark's Primary School has taken a whole school approach to implementing e-learning into their school practices. St Mark's has created spaces within the school specifically for technology usage and has adapted their approaches to creating, assessing and gathering student work to support the learning and teaching of the 21st century student. St Mark's is a great model for us to look towards when thinking about how to successfully include e-learning spaces into our own school. While it is highly important to consider what learning spaces can be transformed within the school setting, there should also be a consideration for how learning beyond the classroom can be developed and rethought, and how these can provide important and modern learning opportunities for students. Beyond learning classroom opportunities for students allows thinking outside the four walls that they are used to, giving them a break from everyday routine and experiencing learning in the real world. Before teachers decide to include beyond classroom learning in their teaching, they must consider their educational purpose, ensuring that these are learning opportunities that are relevant and purposeful to what is being taught in the classroom, as these experiences should offer students more than just enjoyment, but be opportunities to challenge and deepen student knowledge. Teachers also need to ensure that students' participation in these experiences goes beyond simply engaging in the activity, but teacher-facilitated questioning and reflection is conducted prior and post-learning experience. This ensures that students are well prepared and are able to appropriately reflect on the learning experience with purpose and meaning. Beyond classroom learning allows students to encounter new knowledge within its context and adapt their thinking to develop a more informed understanding, as well as practicing reflective thought to achieve higher order understanding of these experiences. Collingwood College's Kitchen Garden is a whole school program where all students are actively participating in building and maintaining the garden. This program is a fantastic example of how to effectively include beyond classroom learning spaces into the structure of our school environment and everyday school practices. Not only does does this in-school facility give students the opportunity to engage with learning outside the classroom, but it also is also developing meaningful lifelong skills and encourages students' cooperative learning across grade levels. As I have explained throughout this presentation, we should take this opportunity to consider a new whole school philosophy which influences and supports the learning spaces that lead to responsible, creative, adaptive and confident learners. I hope you've enjoyed listening to my thoughts. Thank you.